Hello, my soccer universe. There are days where it's really, really hard to put on this jersey, but I'm a LASKler, I'm a LASKler. It's so shameful. I mean, they're the joke of Europe at the moment. This season was meant to be that you will easily qualify for the knockout round of the Conference League. You have all the quality, and especially on the back of last season, in the Europa League, you only won one game, but you didn't play all that badly. But it was all going wrong from the get-go. This whole European season, an absolute nightmare. An absolute nightmare. And yes, you can find here and there excuses that maybe you didn't get the rub of the green, or the ball didn't want to go over the line. But in the end, you just were not good enough. And while the heavy loss at Fiorentina is probably the most indicative result, that things are not right in LASK at all. At all. I think the more damning defeats were the ones in Ljubljana and in Banja Luka, to be honest. There you messed up. Then you have to go then to Florence and hope that Fiorentina is doing something. And talking up the big game, it's our last chance, we're gonna give it our all. Nothing. Nah. I was lucky enough to not being able to watch the game because we had our company's Christmas party at the same time. And while I was ruining that one at first, when I had a little break and I saw the scoreline of 7-0, and I was jokingly saying, it will be a 6-0, something like that, maybe 5-0, like we lost at Liverpool last time around. Cannot tell you what I felt there. To add insult and to injury, my hopes were high for Rapid. And I'm not a Rapid fan, I mean, everyone knows that. But in Europe, I really thought they're doing well. And Austrian Bundesliga needs the points. And then they lose against Omonia Nicosia. Yeah, and I guess they will also not win their last game. At least they will go on, and I hope for them, but also for the Austrian Bundesliga, that the winter break is coming. They can regroup a little bit because that squad really seems tired. They have done amazingly in Europe so far, and that has not been for a long time for Rapid. But yeah, so it's a little bit too far. Horrible week for Austria, but I'm not the one to point the fingers at any other Austrian team when the biggest, by far the biggest disappointment are these guys here. What a disgrace. Again. Other than that, speaking of Cyprus, all three Cypriot teams won. Both Polish teams lost. The Polish teams were riding high, so there were quite some interesting results in this midweek. I also think that the table is a little bit not separating the good from the bad. I mean, the table is separating Chelsea from the rest of the Conference League, but then even a second, you see now the good teams rising up. Yeah, Betis is not yet in a seeded spot, but I guess with a home game they might get there as well. The competition, if there wasn't Chelsea in there, I think this would be a wide open competition because Fiorentina and Betis are, I think, teams that can be gotten at. Although I think Fiorentina is probably the second strongest team, especially the season they're playing in Serie A. So I think this will be another final for Fiorentina unless the draw pans out that they will have to meet Chelsea. But with a heavy heart, let's talk about every single game that happened, just a teeny bit, and we put a little bit more emphasis on the disgrace of Florence. LASK lose at Fiorentina 7-0. Their highest ever defeat in Europe, in conjunction with a 7-0 away defeat to Újpest, two purple teams. Purple teams are seemingly our bane. But it's not the fact that you lost at Fiorentina, it's also the manner how you lose. You can lose at Fiorentina, but when you say ahead of the game, this is our last chance and we have to give it a go, you gave it exactly 0 go. It's such a non-performance. It's absolutely disgraceful, shameful. You're the joke of Europe. I literally have no more words to explain the utter disappointment and embarrassing that I felt. At the moment, this is a shock for LASK. Fiorentina, if they would have won it, they could have scored 10, 11, 12. They had fun. I think especially the fifth goal by Mandragora Was actually quite a nice play, but yeah, you cannot do these stupid mistakes. Especially the second goal by Ikone. What Talavera is producing there is just beyond any description. That you even concede after a minute already and then you're saved by a handball, but all the problems were already on show there and no one put in a shift. Yes, Entrup hit at the 1-1, the crossbar was slightly deflected. Maybe something could have happened. I don't think so. This team is not a team. This is an empty team. They're world champions in talking afterwards, taking the blame and so on and so forth. But to be honest, I think there should be no interviews from LASK players anymore. It should be silence out of there. We want to see performances on the field. I guess they have earned another empty stadium ahead of the last game of this Conference League campaign. They are more or less out, so why bother? Honestly, it's utter shame. It's a disgrace. And it's such a disservice to the entire Bundesliga, and I'm really ashamed of saying that. Because as of recently, LASK actually prepped up the coefficient quite some. That you go from that to this dross. I have no words. I literally have no words. Obviously I had many words, but I really don't want to say more. There was a really early kickoff for the Conference League afternoon in Reykjavik. Víkingur took on Djurgården at 2 o'clock already in the afternoon, losing 2-1 at home, despite Djurgården even having a player sent off. However, at that time, Djurgården had already a 2-1 lead. Another early kickoff was Chelsea taking on Astana in Almaty. Cold weather, long flight. However, Chelsea showed up and Magoo scored 2 goals early on in the 14th and 18th minute. Chelsea really played some nice stuff, and Vega in the 39th minute more or less put the game to rest. However, the goal of the evening came through Tomasov, who made it 1-3 second half. Then Chelsea cruising. Chelsea anyway cruising through this competition with only a second string squad. That's the most remarkable thing about it. Arguably, Başakşehir's 3-1 win over Heidenheim was a little bit of an upset. Heidenheim have been performing well in this competition. However, the signs were very clearly going through Başakşehir already early on. By the 18th minute, they had a 2-0 lead. Honsak then pulled one back in the 61st minute, but then Piontek is sent on to goal and makes it 3-1 in the 68th and 3 points for Başakşehir. In a duel of two bottom dwellers, Dinamo Minsk beat Larne 2-0 at home. The goals came all in the second half. A Gavrilovic penalty and Zherdev just a few minutes later settling the game. Larne is still bottom of the table. 2 second half goals give Copenhagen the win over Hearts, meaning that their chances of progressing at least in the seeded playoff round are looking very good. On the other hand, it was a last chance duel between Helsinki and Molde. Molde had a 2-0 lead. However, Helsinki packed them back to a 2-2 draw. The draw not helping either one. Despite taking an 11th minute lead, Legia suffered the first defeat of the Conference League season at home to Lugano. 2-1, Botani and Haidari turning the game around. 2 goals in the 89th minute and the 93rd secure Apoel a 3-1 away win in Yerevan against Noah. And Ferdinand Feldhofer's debut for Cercle Bruges was a successful one. They took already a 2nd minute lead in Ljubljana that was quickly equalized by Blanco. However, then Felipe Augusto re-established that lead. Ljubljana players sent off and they add 2 more for a 4-1 win. And what do you know is Betis can also get a win. They beat Petrocup away from home through a Bakambu goal in the 54th minute. However, there was late drama as an equalizer by Karuntu was disallowed because of an offside in the build-up. Ghent had absolutely no trouble beating TSC 3-0. The final scoreline was already established in the 20th minute through Dean, Gandelman and Surdes. They even had a goal disallowed in the first half, and then it was smooth sailing for the second one. The Polish champions, Jagiellonia, also suffered the first defeat at Mlada Boleslav 1-0 through a Vidra goal, meaning the Czechs are just about staying alive. Not as embarrassing as LASK, but Rapid also get a rather tough 3-1 loss at Omonia Nicosia, despite dominating especially in the first half, where it really seemed it's only a matter of time until Rapid will score. However, with a tight defense, Omonia launched some counter-attacks that take the lead in the 52nd minute to Kakulis. Belio then equalizes 10 minutes later. You thought Rapid might actually get something going, and then they again caught out on a counter-attack in the 66th minute. And when they were pushing for the equalizer, an empty net goal through Alum settles the game. Tough loss. And also the third Cypriot team was winning. Paphos beat Celi at home 2-0. Zubovnik missed a penalty in the 24th minute, and in the second half, Dragomir and Correa get Paphos the win. And the Shamrock Rovers do what LASK could not do, beating Borac. It's an easy 3-0 win at home, and remarkably, the Shamrock Rovers looking at direct qualification to the round of 16 at this moment, still unbeaten. Vitória de Guimarães move into second spot in the overall table with a rather ruthless 4-1 away win at St. Gallen. Mendes in the 33rd and Gustavo in the 58th had given Guimarães already a 2-0 lead, then Joboth pulls one back in the 66th, and while St. Gallen is pressing for equals, they again called out Costa and Samu scoring two more, very clinically Guimarães side. And lastly, Panathinaikos get also a crucial second win in this Conference League season, a 2-0 away win at the New Saints with Juricic and a Ioannidis penalty securing the 3 points. So briefly looking at the standings, I mean the top three kind of check out. Chelsea, Vitória de Guimarães, Fiorentina. I think from what we have seen so far, these are probably the strongest teams in there. Yes, Legia should not be discounted, but their loss against St. Gallen was a little bit of a shocker. Heidenheim is only in 15th. Rapid fell out of the top 8. I was sure that they will make top 8, but you know, the last two games were not that well. I think the last one will also not really work out in their favor. It's especially Cypriot teams that are really doing well in this table relative to their performance level, with Apoel and Paphos riding relatively high, and also Omonia now being in the bottom half in. But before we go to the bottom half, I want to mention Betis, Kopenhagen, Heidenheim, 15, 16, 17. Those are teams that I would say are a little bit on the disappointing side. And then let's get the bottom out of the way. Those three teams are more or less out, and I would even say Dynamo Minsk doesn't have a realistic chance anymore. Technically, LASK could catch Başakşehir here because they're only 3 points behind, but goal difference also comes into play. It's not gonna happen. It's absolutely not gonna happen. Who is on the bubble? Celje, Molde, TSC. Molde, that's also a bit surprising, I gotta say. But to answer the question of who will actually make it through, I mean, the top 4, I was really surprised to see Lugano there. I think they will have a relatively easy last game, so Fiorentina is only in 4th place for now. But goal difference will probably tilt it in Fiorentina's favor there. Rapid will only be 10th. You know, you have the toughest game last, but Copenhagen is also just about to make it in. Betis will not go into the seeded spots. And then, yes, Başakşehir is in, Celje is out. More or less, I think this is more or less how it will pan out. Interestingly, also Vikingur, who will play LASK in the last game. And with a win, they have a good chance, and I think they will like their chances winning against LASK. Speaking of LASK, yeah, 32nd place, and I think you will end up in 34th, if not worse. As for the overall chances, I mean, I said it is Chelsea, then there's Fiorentina, then there's Betis, and then there's the rest. Guimarães, Ghent, Heidenheim, I can maybe see it, but although this Heidenheim team is a little bit drilling, I think the European commitments might be too much for this team at the moment, so maybe we should strike out Heidenheim as well. It's a rather odd competition, because it really seems that until the semifinals, if really the big teams go through, there's not much excitement, but you know, actually that makes this league exciting, because there's many teams that you would not recognize. Well, if I look at the upcoming matches for the last round, they're all being played at the same time at 9 o'clock on a late December night. This is not the time to play. But in any case, look at the very, very bottom. Vitória de Guimarães against Fiorentina. I think this is the matchup where two big teams are facing each other that could very well have a say on who will finish second. Because now I understand why Lugano is about to finish higher than Fiorentina, because they only play Paphos at home. Now Paphos, they have been quite good so far. Not play Vikingur. I was at one point thinking of going to that game. I will not. I'm gonna save my money maybe for something better there. I also think that Rapid against Copenhagen is a rather interesting one. Chelsea take on Shamrock Rovers. Nice island duel, but you know, not much more than that. And I think Heidenheim taking on St. Gallen is also interesting. Betis will make it because they play Helsinki at home, and that should also be an easy win. That was it. Tough video to make, but you know, sometimes you have to make the tough videos. You have to even say that the club that you love so much is absolute SHIT, and we'll leave it at that. Please let me know what you thought about this Conference League round. Sorry for it being late, but you know, it was a long evening yesterday and there's so many things happening at once. Anyway, give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, subscribe to my channel if you want to see more. I'll talk to you soon about more things in my soccer universe. Bye! Hey there! I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, here are some videos and playlists that you may enjoy too. Also, please consider subscribing to my channel and hit the little bell icon so you get notified whenever something happens in my soccer universe. And with that, have a wonderful day. Bye!